What is narcissism?
Narcissism is a pervasive thoughts of grandiosity, entitlement. They want validation. They also they're charismatic. Okay, so they're charming and they bring their A game when they come to work. So these are types of people that employers want, right? They make them money, they're successful. But on the flip side of that, they suffer in their relationships because they're unable to validate themselves. So they need the external admiration of others to be able to feel calm and feel better about themselves.
How do you spot a narcissist?
One who can command the room. When you walk in, they have this grand persona. And so when you're looking at them, and they're talking about themselves, of course, they have a sense of entitlement that goes along with that. And mainly their persona is about them. Mm-hmm. So it's not about it's about what I've done, I've accomplished. They're telling their own narrative, but putting themselves in a positive light. But they're not asking anyone else how they're doing. What do you do? They don't show interest in others that you will have when you're having a conversation with someone.
But what's the difference between being a narcissist or just being a jerk?
Ooh. Well, they kind of like go hand in hand. But a jerk would, at times, they're not consistently a jerk. A narcissist their personality is chronic. So they don't know how to be any other way. But a jerk can change. A jerk knows, okay, well, and they can also show remorse. A jerk can, okay, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't mean that comment that I made to you earlier. So they have a sign of that, right? In empathy. They can be with people in conversations and in intimacy and show sadness. They can become their authentic selves. With a narcissist, they are unable to do that.
But can't they pretend?
They can. They can pretend, but only for a short while. They cannot keep up the persona. Mm-hmm. Eventually, quickly to spot a narcissist, tell them no. Don't give them their way. You will see maybe a rage that goes along with that. So that's when things get really scary. Mm-hmm. So they don't like to be told the word no, and or when they are unable to get their way. Oh, here comes the red.
I feel like, is it that there are so many narcissists walking among us, or are we noticing it more? Or are we in the midst of an epidemic of narcissism?
I think after COVID, I think people have less patience. They're not considering the other person, that when they're talking with them, or they don't like to stand in lines. You've seen it at the airport, rage fits are going on because people are not getting their way. You also, they're envious now, or it's coming out more, mm-hmm. because they just don't care. Mm-hmm. Of people in the first class seating, they have to wait in line at the grocery stores. Also, talking down to people who are in public service. Mm-hmm. We're talking about our bus drivers, cashiers, bankers, things of that nature. And so the tolerance level is gone out the window.
And you're saying that's sort of exacerbated sort of narcissistic behavior. Now, here's the other thing. I was also reading that we all have narcissistic tendencies.
Yes, we do.
Is there a rubric or something? Is it okay? Ooh, if I got 6 out of 10, that's me.
I wouldn't say there's a rule book. It kind of goes hand in hand with the same characteristics. What I was explaining earlier about what's the difference between a jerk and a narcissist. Things that they can do. Okay. with that, they can express empathy, right? They can express be in intimate relationships. They can show up with a sense of autonomy. They have an accurate sense of self. They have self-awareness of things like that. But when you are a narcissist, you don't express those because you don't have it. You lack empathy. And when they are with other people, it's all about me. The self of entitlement. This is who I am. You accept it or move out of the way.
Let's talk about narcissists in relationships, because there's been, you can delve deeply into that. Okay, in a romantic relationship, how does a narcissist act? What kinds of, or let's define abuse by a narcissist, since these are the people that you do want to help, the people, the victims. How does that look in a relationship?
Well, for that particular person, the survivor is very confused. They're anxious. They may have some physical symptoms that go along with that. Their stability, their mental stability is questioned. The reality of where they're living at and what they're gone through as the periods of invalidation for them. They could be scared. They could be confused. They have a hard time concentrating as well. And like I said, along with that, they may have the physical symptoms. And they may also soothe themselves with substance abuse. So a lot of that is going, it may be tearful, irritable at times, just very confused. They don't know, they are unable to make decisions as well, so.
And these are the victims of narcissistic abuse. But how, give me some examples of narcissistic behavior in a romantic relationship.
Oh, it depends on what type of narcissist they are. Now you have your covert narcissist who will project their inner lack of empathy and their lack of self-awareness, their lack of being able to soothe themselves, so they're irritable, right? So when you're sitting across from them, you feel that energy. They also are passive aggressive. And so they would rather cut you off and not deal with you at all, and this can last for days. So the survivor is saying, oh wow, what did I do anything wrong? That's the first thing what the survivor does. They will also blame themselves. But the narcissist is, or the one who have traits, they are very cold. They're not loving, and so they wear a mask. As soon as they hit the outside of the door, they can put that mask on and charm you, like they're giving, loving, caring, that. But once they get behind closed doors, you see this evilness just comes over them, and they're very grumpy, irritable. They don't want to have anything to do with you. They don't even want to have a conversation with you.
But they're not like that all the time. And that's, right?
That's the covert narcissist. They are.
Oh, okay.
Now the overt narcissist is a little bit, they could be a little bit different as far as, but they still, it's all about me. What can you do for me? Still in that relationship, because they are dependent on you to validate them. And so year after year after year, that person, that survivor, ends up shrinking. They're silenced. And they don't have a voice anymore in that relationship because you're assumed by the narcissist.
Can't avoid, you could avoid being in a relationship maybe with somebody who's a narcissist, but you know, if this is where you work, if this is your boss, if these are your colleagues,
well, then at that point you have options, right? I never let anybody box you in, because if this is your livelihood, they say, well, you can always move, you have options. Get another job, cut your losses, but if you stay there, then you've gotten the best that you're gonna get. You understand what I'm saying? That this is how it is. So a lot of people just go along with the climate.
Go along to get along.
Yes, the climate of the workplace until you can find something better.
Okay, now let's stay with the theme of, along the lines of narcissists that you can't necessarily get away from.
Okay.
Your parents.
Yes.
There are a lot of books written about narcissistic parents. How do you identify that?
Well, basically, the survivor will come in and tell you their symptoms, what they're going through. Then you ask them about their family structure. How is it, how do they show up in their family structure? What is their role? A lot of them will have a role, and they start telling you all these things, what's going on, and you say, okay. Well, even at that point, just like with any other relationship, if you're willing to stay in that relationship, then this is the best it's going to be. You can talk to you blue in the face to that individual and tell them how they make you feel. And guess what? It doesn't get any better. And so even in their vulnerable state, discussing this with them will make them even more angrier.
So, and this is something, so let's talk about the traits of a narcissist in all of these relationships. You mentioned belittling.
Belittling, demeaning.
The rage.
Yes.
And what else?
Well, for the narcissists themselves, we mentioned the good parts, okay? The charismatic, charming. They're go-getters. They bring their A game. These are the type of people that their employers want, right? But then on the flip side of that, the grandiosity, we talked about entitlement. That's a big thing. The irritability, thin-skinned. They do not like to be told no, and they want things to go their way. So the other things with them, the grandiosity, they will embellish their accomplishments, their achievements, and they, like I said before, they will steal someone else's work. They'll do whatever it takes to climb that ladder. And it's all about them. So if you're not on my team, then move out of the way so I can get other people who will validate me.
Why there is a danger to, which is what you see online all the time. Oh, this person's a narcissist. That term is being thrown around an awful lot lately.
Right, right. And this is the thing about that. It's a society loves to put a label. We have a potential of doing that, so we have a better understanding, right? However, when we do that, that term, narcissist or NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, is a chronic, serious disorder. And it only should be used by those who are licensed professionals who are in the process of assessing or who have assessed a client, and it's used for diagnostic purposes. So that's the whole reason why that term should only be used in that instance. It's for diagnostic purposes, not in a sense of just seeing someone having a rage or having a fit at the airport or something like that. What that happens to is for those who actually have NPD, that creates a sense of rejection for them, and also marginalization for them. So it kind of puts them in a category of being marginalized, for instance. And the other thing, it increases the stigma, something that mental health is trying to diminish. This here is increasing it back to them. And so with that particular individual who has been diagnosed, it leaves them with a bit of shame.
And isn't that sort of at the root of narcissism, which is these are not happy people. Despite what they do, they are terrified most of the time. They mask it really well. They may not even realize it, but that is at the root of it. And that doesn't mean that we should give in to them or feel bad, but we have to understand that is what's at the root of that behavior, right?
Yes, and it's also fear of being found out. Because once you call them out on it, well, which is something we shouldn't do, because unless they're in a therapeutic setting, things like that. But we all can have traits, and it's nothing wrong with saying narcissistic traits, or better yet, antagonistic behaviors. And so they also have a disagreeable part about them, and they usually link up with somebody who's agreeable.
And it could progress into narcissistic abuse, which can sometimes be scary. Can we identify that and what that looks like?
Yes, very, like I said, yelling, screaming, avoidance. It could be isolation. Also, it can also mimic domestic violence without the violence. It's more emotional, let's say, crushing, demeaning type of behaviors. Just let them know, oh, you don't mean anything, you mean nothing, you can do nothing without me, type of attitude that they would project onto survivors.
How do people with NPD get help? Can they get help? Is the prognosis good?
No, that one, no. They can get help. There is some therapists out there who would use CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. They will also use DBT, was dialectical behavioral therapy. Schema therapy is also out there, and EMDR, which is the eye movement desensitization, reprogressing. That there is out there for them. They can use a variety of therapies, but studies will show in research is that it's part of their personality. It's just like someone coming in trying to change your DNA, and it just doesn't happen.
Yikes.
And so they may show very little progress. However, with these particular individuals, they will be in therapy for a very, very long time. However, statistics also show that they don't stay long. And so that's the reason why the success rate, the success rate is low anyway.
Yikes. So where does that leave the rest of us who have narcissists in our lives? And, you know, people want to hold out hope, because what if it's your child?
Yeah.
Who has narcissistic personality disorder?
And that's what it is. It's the survivors having the hope. That's what keeps the relationships going. But once the survivors realize, I'm being my self-worth, my self-being, my autonomy, my self-awareness, my mental condition is diminishing because I'm around this individual. And it's usually not the narcissists that go to get help, it's the survivors.
Of course.
And so with that being said, they will rarely seek treatment. Only time they will seek treatment if it has to do with they've been given an ultimatum in a marriage, okay? But also if they are going to lose something substantial, they will, okay, well, now they'll give in and they'll go. But then you'll find those ones, and we have to remember this is a good point, is that narcissism is on a continuum. There's your severe, okay, and then there's your mild. So it just depends on where that individual will go, where they're at, and if they will go seek treatment.